Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center, the place to be, where comic books and wrestling collide magically. Movies, TV shows, and pop culture we share. Get ready to rock, we're here to take you there. From superheroes to aliens in outer space, we've got the latest news and reviews in our embrace. Turn on your screen, let the neon lights glow. We'll take you back to the 80s. Let's rock and roll. Sci-Fi Center, where the legends come alive. Get ready to geek out, let your imagination fly. We're diving into the past with a touch of modern flair. Sci-Fi Center, the ultimate pop culture lair.
Good evening. Happy November 5th. Remember the 5th of November. Gunpowder, treason, and plot. I see no reason why gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. It's a whole bunch of different words of it, but that's how I grew up remembering it. I actually knew about the gunpowder revolt before V for Vendetta because we were taught it in school, social studies. Wow, that's what they called it back then, social studies. Welcome to the Midnight Express. Mostly free and easy topic, but since it's the 5th of November, and like I said, V for Vendetta is one of the truly most underrated, brilliant comic book movies ever made. And to be quite honest with you, the story, even though Alan Moore is a bit of an ass, he was a brilliant storyteller, and V for Vendetta is one of the better stories put out in the mid-'80s. And the mid-'80s saw a lot of great stories that were put out, but it wasn't a superhero story, so I don't know if a lot of people paid as much attention. I'm surprised it got a movie, but I was happy with the movie. Thought the movie was great. So before we get to any of that, let me say Iron, my little koala bear. Remember the 5th of November. Happy Guy Fawkes. Yeah, Guy Fawkes Day. For most of you will not know of the Guy Fawkes Rebellion and his face via the mask that you see at a lot of counterculture protests or things like Anonymous. That's their symbol. They've adopted that symbol. But there it is right there. And this is the mask itself was made famous by V for Vendetta, but it's also been around for a little bit. But you can actually buy this mask. You can actually wear this mask. But the mask you see used in pop culture is a caricature of his face. In fact, there's a caricature right there. That's what he looked like. He had a little goatee like that and he had a beard. And there it is. So we'll go over that a little bit. But depending on what kind of political situation we're in at any given moment, a movie like V for Vendetta becomes very relevant, kind of like George Orwell's 1984, which is another thing we're going to focus on one of these days and go hard and heavy into it. It's about revolt. It's about rebellion. It's a failed rebellion. I mean, Guy Fawkes was drawn and quartered once the gunpowder, once they discovered all of gunpowder under the British Parliament. So he's a symbol of martyrism. The movie, the character V, adopts this moniker. He adopts it as a symbol of rebellion against what is a very depressing oligarchy, a very depressing Orwellian type reality that Britain that he lives in. So he uses that mask, and it's for vengeance. The vendetta and V for Vendetta is what they did with him. The government experimented on him and did awful things to him. And most of the 12-issue maxi series, and as well as the movie, is him hunting down those people that were involved in those things, and at the same time exposing corruption and unsettling. His goal, just like Fox's goal, was to unseat the government, was to unsettle the government, create enough chaos that something that he thought would take its place. That's exactly what the movie is about. The movie has some of the best dialogue because the comic book has some of the best dialogue. The speech he gives to Ellie when he kidnaps her and makes her think that she's in a prison camp, that they've gotten to her and they're going to interrogate her and they're trying to break her. I'm going to read that when Brad gets here. I'm going to bring that up. There's two passages in V for Vendetta that I absolutely love. One of them is when he realizes he's posing as an oppressor, but it's really him. He realizes that she's not going to break, that she's not going to give in, and that's when he truly trusts her. And he also expresses to her that you've now embraced things that are more important than just your life, and that's what it means to be part of that type of movement. So the book, just good reading. I mean, Alan Moore just knows how to do it. Alan Moore knows how to send that chill down your spine, and he definitely did there. And there was no other way to adapt his work into the movie other than the way he did it, the way he wrote it. Obviously, it's a 12-issue miniseries. I think it's 12. I wish I was at the store because I actually have the miniseries at the store. I've actually brought it up to you guys before, but there's a lot to cover. There's a lot to cover in that, and I think that the movie that came out with Hugo Weaving as one of Hugo Weaving's best roles, in my opinion, is a role where you don't even see his face. You never see his face in the movie. John Hurt is in it. John Hurt, I think, is one of his last roles before he got sick. John Hurt is there's just a lot to that movie. I wish I could bring up scenes to it, but I don't feel like getting kicked off the internet, so I'll just have to do my best to explain to you. All right. Yeah. Please like, subscribe, spread the religion. And V for Vendetta graphic novel, the British monarchy is still around, but in the film they have been exiled. Which version do you like better? For effect, I like the film better. And I think it's because the only really true face of the government that you really need to see is you don't really need to see the monarchy per se, because in the book he sees the entire whatever system is in place as something that needs to be removed. So it really didn't matter whether it was the monarchy or whether it was the fascist government that's in the movie. It's the status quo that is causing pain and misery, and that has blood on their hands. And even though they make those kind of changes, the same circumstances are still there. Like there's a letter, and I'll bring up this letter. There's a letter, and I've read it on the show before. It's some of the best stuff that Alan Moore's ever written. It's when she's imprisoned, Ellie, she's in prison. She finds a letter that a previous prisoner who's long dead has written, and they read that same letter in V for Vendetta. So, to answer your quick question, long story short, I like the movie version better. I don't like the graphic novel less, but for the purposes of that movie, I thought they made the right decision. Jules, so this remember, there's a cool parade live stream from the UK annually. They give good info. Okay, thank you. Good question. How well did V for Vendetta do? I know it didn't really cost a lot to make, but I don't know if it was. I never really looked into whether it was successful or not. All right. Wow, that one was 2005. Thought it was a lot later. All right, so it cost $50 million. It made $134 million. for an IP that most people didn't even know existed. I mean, Natalie Portman, this is one of her better roles. In the near future, Britain is ruled by the far right ultranationalist Northfire political party, a brutal fascist totalitarian regime led by High Chancellor Adam Sutler, John Hurt, which controls the populace through propaganda and imprisons and executes those deemed undesirable, including immigrants, homosexuals, and people from alternate religion. There's a lot of times, whether it be now or any different times in our society, where this is the point. Kind of see, if you've ever read this and if you've ever seen this movie, you can see why people are turning to this, why you see that mask over and over again. So financially, it did okay. Yeah, I liked him. He never likes to have any of his works adapted. He doesn't think his works should be adapted to movies, and I wholeheartedly disagree with him. I think his works are things that can be looked at in so many different ways, and I wish he would embrace it. I know Dave Gibbons did for Watchmen, and Dave Gibbons was as much part of Watchmen than anything else. So I'm glad somebody that was associated with some of his works did. But I wish he would change his mind. But you know what? The works belong to DC, and they're going to get interpreted. Super thirsty. Hello, Mr. Duck. Oh, got your message. Congrats on the new scooter. Yeah, and I like the way they took a lot of aspects from another John Hurt movie, 1984. If you guys have not seen the version of 1984 that was released in 1984, with John Hurt, and I think it was Richard Burton's last movie. That is the best interpretation of the best version of 1984 I've ever seen. And I've read the 1984 book over and over and over and over and over again. And that's the best version. And John Hurt plays Winston, ironically. He plays the Chancellor, which is basically the embodiment of Big Brother in this movie, but he played Winston, who was the protagonist in 1984. So, isn't that right? What's going on, Jose? My biggest gripe with V for Vendetta is we don't get to see you. Well, that's the point. You don't get to see it in the comic either. Late as usual if he shows. Let's see. I always know when he shows if he shares the. Yeah, okay, so he's on his way. Yeah, and did you read the comic? Because I don't recall, and I don't have the books here with me. I should, but if I recall, they don't. The whole point is they don't show his face because his face is so hideous, and they don't want you to see his face because the mask of Guy Fawkes is. I bet most people who watch the film, yeah, 100%. That's one of those ones because it's not a superhero movie. That's one of the ones I can kind of forgive you on. Same thing with Road to Perdition. Road to Perdition is a graphic novel. Same thing with Atomic Blonde, Coldest Winter. These are all graphic novels, but they're kind of obscure, and they don't have a big red S or a bat or a spider on their chest. So a lot of people are, I can give you an allowance for that. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I have the actual series, the individual ones that came out, and then I have the collected editions as well. History of Violence is great. Yeah. All right, so let's. Okay, hold on. I wanted to. I'm going to bring up. Um, all right, so the passage I'm going to bring up is Rose. It's the hold on. Try to I wish I had it. I wish I had it here with me. I'm a bonehead. Valerie, I'm sorry, Valerie. Valerie is the person that I'm not going to read the whole thing, but because it's really long. Um, but you know what? I'll go ahead and read the whole thing. All right. So this is one of the passages that's in the book. It's a letter from Valerie. Valerie's she's a lesbian, and in that society, that's a death sentence. So they eventually hunt her and find her down, and find her and prison her, and in the same place where Ellie is in prison right now. And this is a letter that she finds from this person who is long, probably dead. And I'm going to go ahead and read it. Okay. I don't know who you are. Please believe this is no way I can convince you that this is not one of their tricks, but I don't care. I am me, and I don't know who you are, but I love you. I have a pencil, a little one that they did not find. I am a woman. I hid it inside me. Um, Perhaps I won't be able to write again, so this is a long letter about my life. It's the only autobiography I have ever written, and oh God, I'm writing it on toilet paper because yeah, she's got it hidden in toilet paper so that she could hide it in the brick so that the guards won't find. I was born in Nottingham, 1957, and it rained a lot. Let's see, I'm gonna skip. I met my first girlfriend in school. Her name was Sarah. I was 14 and she was 15, and we were both in Mrs. Watson class. So this is this is much more easier to articulate if I had the comic book with me. Even though I probably could bring up the pages, but I think it's more powerful in the movie. So I'm going to skip down because it's a lot. All right. In 1992, they started rounding up the gays. They took Ruth while she was looking for food. Uh, why are they so frightened of us? They burned her with cigarette ends and made her give up my name. She signed a statement saying, I seduced her. I don't blame her. God, I loved her. I don't blame her. But she did. She killed herself in her cell. She couldn't live with betraying me, with giving up the last inch. They came for me. They told me that all my films would be burned. They shaved off my hair, and if you watch the movie, that's what they do to the prisoners in there. And the shaved head goes back to the Nazis and the Holocaust. Alan Moore did that on purpose. They shaved my hair and held me down in the toilet bowl and told jokes about lesbians. They bought me here and gave me drugs. I can't feel my tongue anymore. I can't speak. The other gay woman here, Rita, died 2 weeks ago. I'll imagine I'll die quite soon. It's strange that my life should end up in a terrible place. But for 3 years, and she's talking about 3 years of the relationship she had with her girlfriend. For 3 years, I had roses and apologized to nobody. I shall die here. Every inch of me shall perish except one, an inch. It's small and fragile, but it's the only thing in the world worth having. We must never lose it or sell it or give it away. We must never let them take it from us. I don't know who you are or whether you're a man or a woman. I may never see you cry with you or get drunk with you, but I love you. I hope that you escape this place. I hope that the world turns and that things get better. And one day people have roses again. I wish I could kiss you, Valerie. Now she's writing this letter, not knowing if it's ever going to be found. Because to her, that's the inch she's talking about. The only thing she has left is to be able to leave a story or something for the next person. And when she's expressing, don't give up your inch. That's what she's saying when she's talking to Natalie Portman's character, Ellie. And this sticks with her. Hold on for a second. Chat, let me know if I'm freezing because I've frozen. God damn it. Testing. All right. So this sticks with her because right now this is in her cell that V has put her in. V didn't write the letter. He's using a cell that they used already. So that person was in that cell. That person really died. Am I frozen? I think this is letting me know if I'm frozen or not. And I hope I'm not because I really did. Okay, good. Thank you. Because I hope that didn't get broken up. That was powerful. That was powerful when 13, I think 13 or 14-year-old me read that. And that movie is so good that it not only articulates everything I just read you see it happening. You see them breaking into her apartment and taking her away. You see her there or getting her head shaved. You see her being thrown in there. And you see her writing the letter as Natalie Portman, who's now had her shaved head because V's doing that to see what she's made of. Now, like I said, you read this, it's 2025. Alan Moore wrote this in 1985. It's literally, I think it's 1985, 1986. We're 4 decades. And without getting political, because I don't have to. I don't really have to. You're not stupid. You're not blind. And you have ears. You see the things that are happening around you. Everything I read to you, there are keywords in that passage I just read to you. And you can read it for yourself. And you look around the world you're living in right now. So these people, when it comes to Alan Moore, yeah, he's an asshole, but he was a visionary. George Orwell was the same thing. George Orwell wrote 1984 and 1948. He literally just flipped the two numbers because he had a feeling. He looked at the Iron Curtain. He saw what the Soviets were doing, and he saw that spreading. He saw anti-Semitism. If you look at 1984, Goldstein doesn't have the name Goldstein by accident. It's a made-up propaganda tool used by Big Brother to give you someone to hate. If you read 1984, Goldstein was the enemy. That's like I said, that name is not an accident. George Orwell did that because he saw what was going on in Europe, even after the war. Even Stalin was, and he saw what was happening. He saw what Hitler did, and he basically made that his fiction. And it's the same carryover to V for Vendetta. It's propaganda. And this is in real life as in fiction. If you get in Lyndon B. Johnson, I think if you look up Lyndon B. Johnson, he gives a quote. If you give someone, a target or someone they hate, if you tell somebody that somebody's stealing from them or somebody is caught you, whether it's real or not, you can pick their pockets. You can get them to do whatever you want. And that happens in George Orwell's story. And that happens here. All the enemies that government creates are bullshit to maintain power. And V literally is the symbol of disrupting that power. He's a murderer. There is no hero here. He gets his revenge, but V, make no doubt, is a cold-blooded murderer. He is a cold-blooded murderer, and he really doesn't give a fuck who dies because guess what? He is reenacting the Gunpowder Rebellion, and that could kill a lot of people. He doesn't care. The way he figures it, we're all dead anyway. We're all walking dead if we're living under that regime. So Alan Moore captures that perfectly. And that movie, I don't know if we've done a watch party for V for Vendetta. I don't think we have. I think we need to. Because it's a powerful movie. It's a very, very powerful movie. And I have a feeling, unfortunately, in 20 and 30 years from now, someone else is going to pick up that graphic novel or someone else is going to plug in that movie and they're going to look around the world that they're currently living in and they're going to see way too many connections. What was supposed to be fiction, unfortunately, turned out to be a lot more real than it ever should have been. So, and as far as Fox goes, I mean, he just basically became he became a martyr. He was a terrorist. He thought he sought out to murder the royal family and the parliament. The whole Gunpowder Rebellion plot was about. But at the same time, he has come to, and that mask has come to symbolize rebellion, uprising, no longer tolerating it, no longer tolerating the status quo. So and you see that mask everywhere. When you see the protests, you see them wearing the mask. When you see Anonymous, they're wearing the mask. Anybody that's protesting something or protesting status quo, that mask has become a symbol. And that's how people find out about V for Vendetta. They come into my store and they see that damn mask in there because I have a version of it that comes with the mask. And they're like, so that's not, no, that's, and then they read it and it spreads, man. So, one of the most underrated comic books made, in my opinion. And I was around collecting. This was right at the point where I could start to afford my own comic books. And I did a book report. My teacher at the time allowed me to use comic books as reading book report materials, so long as they were in collected or graphic novel form. So I just couldn't bring an issue of Amazing Spider-Man and say, well, the story plot was page 1. No, if it were like The Dark Knight Returns, or if it were like V for Vendetta or Watchmen, if it was a collected story that basically was a book, I could do it. I couldn't wait to do one on V for Vendetta. And I loved reading those patches. There's another passage here. Let me go ahead and bring in Brad while I look for this. The passage when she realizes that he is her captor. He is posed as the regime to break her or see if she can be broken. And I'll bring that up while Brad is saying hi to you and apologizing for being late. I'm just kidding.
Oh, hey, right. Aaron says, it's really gut-wrenching to hear what you read there. I want to cry, and watching on screen is so saddening and depressing.
It is. I am not a guy who sheds a lot of tears. That brings me close. Because the fucking despair. This woman that he's writing has every reason to fucking go out hating everything, and she doesn't. The last thing she does is to make sure that whoever is in that cave, who's ever in that cell, had something. And this is a person that knows they're condemned. And everything about that passage is tragic. Everything about it is tragic. And it's really hard to read. But yeah, I thought it was important to bring it up because I know, you got marginalized people watching this show. You got marginalized people. If you want to consider people of color marginalized, this thing can be turned and aimed at anybody. That's why it's so important when we read these things, we don't take the, well, I'm glad it's not me attitude. You know what I mean? Because it can be aimed. It's like a spinner. It can be aimed at anyone. All right. I'll be right back. I'm going to go find this passage and see if I can bring it up on screen.
Okay.
Right back.
What else you guys got in here? And the movie had a really awesomely talented Stephen Fry playing the TV host. That's right. Really need to do. Yeah, I don't think we have done a watch party of V for Vendetta. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we haven't. So put that one on the docket definitely. In the V for Vendetta graphic novel, the British monarchy is still around, but in the film they have been exiled. Which version do you like better? It's an interesting question. I'll wait for William to get it back before we kind of tackle that one. William Frog costumes are similar resistance. Yes, they are.
Yeah. That's it. Resistance is the word I'm looking for. All right, here we go. This one right here wasn't as powerful as the one that I read you before. Okay, so I'm gonna get to the point, and this is a part in the movie where they're out in the rain. And like I said, we do have to do a all right, V, listen to me. Listen to me, Evie. Evie, I keep calling her Ellie because it's fucking Last of Us. Listen to me, Evie. This may be the most important moment of your life. Commit to it. They took your parents from you. They took your brother from you. They put you in a cell and took everything they could take except for your life. And you believe that was all there was, didn't you? The only thing you had left was your life, but it wasn't it? You found something else. In that cell, you found something that mattered more than you than life. It was when they threatened to kill you unless you gave them what they wanted. You told them you'd rather die. You faced death, Evie. You were calm. You were still. Try to feel now what you feel then. And that's when he's basically telling her of all the people that have fallen under this regime, they used the fear of death to lords over them. And if you look at society now, every regime from the Nazis, Pol Pot, Khmer Rouge, all these people used death. They used the fear of death to control people and keep people from doing the right thing or keep people in line. And in that moment, when they basically said, because he kept, saying, if you don't give us what we want, I guess we'll have to take you out back and die. And she says, well, then kill me. And so that guard walks out, and then it's V that walks in, because at that point she doesn't know it's him. And he now, because that's where he is. He knows he's going to be a martyr. He knows he's going to die and all this. He doesn't care, because that's what took the fear away from him. That's what allowed him to become what he was. And when he sees her elevate to that level, that's what stops him. But that's what the whole movie is about. That's what the graphic novel was about. And that's what, when Rose says the inch, and that comes back to that speech. That comes back to the speech, because the inch is the last thing that you have. And the whole graphic novel, you're led to believe, and she's led to believe, that that's her life. The only important thing she has left is her life. And then when she gets to the point, not just because of what he's doing to her and what he's saying, but he's realizing that letter hits her again, right? All that. And in the movie, they articulate it great, because it's out in the rain and she's breaking down in tears because she's realized that she's beyond that point of that type of caring. She's where he is now. Not just a murderer, though, but I loved it. I love that book, man. That's one of my that's one of the best miniseries that they've ever put out.
Well, actually,
yeah, he asked me about this. Yeah. I thought, like I told him, I thought for the movie it was appropriate, because you had somebody like John Hurt who you can envision the Chancellor through. Whereas you had in the book, you had 8, 9, 10 I think it's 10 issues. You had so much time to build up the society that you hated, whereas you only had an hour and a half to 2 hours him. So it's kind of like with Zack Snyder's with Watchmen. You don't have the time to build up the proper environment to do it the way it's done in the graphic novel, but it's done expertly in the movie, though. So I agreed with what they did. If you guys have not read V for Vendetta, read it. I cannot give you any bigger recommendation of something to read. If you're not into comic books, if you're not into superhero comic books, this is neither. It's something to read. I just read you things, and I hadn't shown you any of the panels from it. The art is there. It's good. But it's not the art that drives that comic. It's these long soliloquies that he goes, and he talks a lot, by the way. If you watch the movie, he's long-winded, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to start talking again, and you're like, you're ready to write him off, but then you realize everything that he says means something. Everything he says is reflective of something, even if as he talks, he's a blowhard at the beginning of the graphic novel and in the movie. As the movie goes on, you understand the power of those words, even though it took him an entire page to put them out. As the story unfolds, you understand what he means, and so does she. And it's at the end. This is one of those movies or graphic novels to where everything comes together in the end, and it smacks you across the head. It's going to depend on when you read it too, because this, like I said, it came out 40 years ago. But I could hand this to Aaron right now. I could hand this to a 20-year-old right now, and I guarantee you it's going to have a profound effect on them, because there's no way that they're not going to be able to relate what they're reading to something that they've been through, watch somebody else go through, or what they think society is right now. That's there's only like 4 or 5 comic books that I think have ever been written that do that. And V for Vendetta is one. So there you go. Happy 5th of November. All right. Now we'll do open topic. You can take that down now. Goodbye.
There.
Okay, let's answer questions. Yeah, Alan Moore is a genius. He's an asshole, but he's a genius. Okay, so I was down further. Did you ever read For Vendetta? I know you saw the movie, but
No, I have not read it, but I've seen it.
yeah,
As a Catholic, what's your perspective on Guy Fawkes and V for Vendetta? Yeah, it's kind of a loaded question. Let me come back to this actually when we do the watch party. I think I might let me ruminate on that bit because I know when, and I'm actually kind of surprised now to think about it that we haven't done a watch party for V for Vendetta yet. So yeah, let me kind of think. This is an interesting question. Let me think on this a little bit, Aaron, and then come back to it whenever we do the watch party. I mean, probably I would imagine what you want to do it before the calendar year is out.
Yeah, we'll probably end up doing it for one of our marathons. We've probably got at least 2 more marathons to reach our goals.
Gotcha. I mean, I like with a lot of people, I definitely can't. My intro to V for Vendetta was the movie. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like I meant to like dive in on the graphic novel. So the comic book guy in me just keeps saying, "Why haven't you read this yet, Brad?" So I need to get to that. But yeah, that was definitely my intro to V for Vendetta.
Yeah, 1984 when I was in school was required reading. It was required reading. You had to read that. You weren't getting out. I mean, I think I was 10 when I read that book. I read that book because I was 10 in 1984. It was required reading. You were not getting the entire school read that, and you were reading it or reading along with the teacher. She would read it, and then you read along. It was required or reading, and that's a life changing book. I am so happy that somebody put that book in front of me at that age because that book is brilliant, and you could read it every day and feel differently about it each time you read it. Like when he says. Smith, Richard, the character that Richard Burton plays in his final role in action movie, the cold, callous way that he describes the party and describes its hopelessness. I actually have this at the store above one of our doorways. People ask me why, but I do. It's a quote from 1984. There's no out, Winston. There's no nothing. And then it cuts to this part. If you want a vision of the future, Winston, imagine a boot stamping on a human face forever. And I have that. I don't know why. It's just something about that quote just fucking applies at some point in your life. That is going to apply. And there's so many things in 19. There's so many quotable things. And yes, there's a lot of words in 1984, but they all mean something. They all matter. They all build the scenery. They all are descriptive. When he promises me, Winston, we will meet in a place where there is no light, and then it's a torture chamber, room 101, where it's all white walls. Or we'll meet in a place where there's no darkness. So everything is pointed. But yeah, dude, 1984 is another one we really need to dive into. Should have did that last year for the 40th anniversary, but who knows. I am seriously thinking about it. I got to find out the time because that's 9 episodes. I really do want to go over that because that series is great. That's what told me that it doesn't, whatever Damon Lindelof decides he's going to do, I'm watching it. It doesn't matter. I don't think the Catholicism question was loaded. But he obviously, if you want to take time to answer, that's fine. But
well, I mean, it's kind of. I mean, I feel the same way. Like you asked me, like as a Catholic, like how do you like view Daredevil? Too, because like when you.
Well, B wasn't going after a particular. That wasn't his aim. He was going after the oppressor. Period. Whoever it was, and you if you want to really adapt it, you can just put whatever oppressor. It's a plug and play. Put whatever is oppressing you is what you relate to. So it wasn't really a religious issue at all. It was an oppression.
Yeah.
So I think it's a safe place.
Which that's, I mean, depending on you know what depending on what kind of historical figure you sort of latch onto like Che Guevara or something. I mean, that's been enveloped in like different figures throughout history. You get the idea of like liberation theology and and that sort of thing. So
Well,
yeah,
Che Guevara was communism, which was the antithesis.
yeah, that's
of
true.
what
But
it
yeah,
is, so.
but I mean, there's been cases of Catholic,
Yeah.
wings of Catholics like kind of taking on aspects of his sort of ideology, and so like
Yeah, because they don't understand it. If you're using
Yeah.
Catholicism for Che or Castro or
Yeah.
communism and revolutionary in general, then I don't see what history you're looking at, because those gentlemen were against all of that, because they part of one of the reasons why the USSR was mostly atheist for the most part is because they didn't believe that religion had a place in the power structure. The party was your religion. That was your religion. That was your God. That was who you worship. That was it. And to them, deities and things like that, this weren't their thing. So, everybody who practiced communism in the Southern Hemisphere adopted that. So really,
I think there, with Aaron's question too, because it kind of also not just like from the Catholic angle, but also like my Irish lineage. And of course, there's history in in Ireland between like Northern Ireland and the division between there. You have the Catholic population of Ireland, the Protestant Northern Irish, and there's historically been a big division there, and of course that led to things like the IRA being sprung out of that. So.
I understood her question. I got it doesn't apply to V for Vendetta in any way, shape, or form, though.
Yeah,
it doesn't, because the power structure he's going against has nothing to do with religion, really. Even if you look at the comic book in the Catholic Church, all that, it doesn't matter. They could be devil worshippers, and he was still going to kill them all because of what they represented. So you can make that argument or ask that question would be probably more appropriate, Aaron, for 1984, because they vilified a religion, they vilified the people in creating Goldstein.
No, Aaron, no, I didn't. No, I feel like it was unfair at all. It's just that it's.
No. All I'm saying is it just doesn't apply to what we're talking about.
Well, I mean these themes like themes of the religious themes. You can find that all throughout like comic book lore. So that maybe I should have phrased it. It wasn't like a loaded question. It was like a question. It's like, huh? It's like I wasn't. That's like not the question I was expecting to. Have like discussion around it. So
there will come a time and a place for that, Aaron. That question. It's just not with the gunpowder and all that.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm not taking it as like an indictment on as or anything like that.
Save that one for when we start talking about 1984, because like, there's a lot.
Box, yeah.
Well, yeah, even still.
Because because his the image is historically has Catholic ties and connotations.
Yeah, that he didn't. He just wanted to kill those fools.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good question when we start talking about 1984, because 1984 is a mirror reflection of what communism was going to become, and how they put the party in place of religion. So probably a better question for then.
Yeah.
Are you discussing this movie, or is this a watch party? We're just discussing the movie, and
we're discussing the need to do a watch party.
Yeah, we'll get around to doing that one. But yeah, that's one of the better. Like I said, a lot of people just didn't realize that was a comic book.
And that, because and that was like kind of during that wave when you had 300. What else did you have kind of during that? Like mid 2000s, where like you had a whole bunch of like Alan Moore and Frank Miller graphic novels that were not, they were cult comic book hits, but they weren't like mainstream. Like they became mainstream by the movies that were adapted from them.
Okay. All right. Think about communism, though. The world really hasn't never seen communism. The world, it's a word we throw around because we don't know any better. When you look at the structure of communism, when you read the manifesto, when you read Marx and Engels, their works, and what communism is, what communism and socialism is, we've never really had that. The structure of communism is for the people, not a leader, not a party. When Lenin enacted communism with the Bolshevik Revolution, he used violence to do so, but he also betrayed the values of the manifesto and communism in general. Because remember when they took over in 1917, the Tsar was living like a king, which he was, and the people and the workers in Russia were starving. And the whole thing that they wanted to topple was a central structure that put anyone above anyone else. They wanted the workers to be at the same level as their leadership, and their leadership to be the people, vice versa. There was not supposed to be this type of structure. So when you say communism, it's a term that has been perverted, mainly by Mao Zedong, and it kind of, because remember, the Soviet Union had massive differences between what they thought communism was and what what the goals of communism was. What we have seen, and it's not communism, is socialism and socialist dictatorship. The Soviet Union really wasn't true communism, because you wouldn't be suffering like that, and you wouldn't have the Politburo living one way and the people living another. The whole point of it was that we wouldn't have a czar type situation with somebody beneath somebody. But when you look at how communism was reflected and how communism was reinterpreted throughout Europe, throughout Asia, it was degraded each time it happened. What Mao Zedong did in the Great Leap Forward, that was not communism. That was socialist dictatorship. And there's a difference. Communism was designed to be a paradise to where no one starved, no one suffered, no one was under anybody's boot. That is not what you saw in the USSR. That is not what you saw in Vietnam. That is not what you see in Korea. That's not what you see in China. That's not what you see in Cuba. In Cuba, Castro was the leader.
China today it's the most capitalist, communist
it's really
country in the world.
But under Mao Zedong and if you look at how it's been, they've perverted the word communism, but what they're really doing is socialist dictatorship. That's what they are. Because if you have a leader, not the leader of the movement, that what Lenin was the leader of the movement. Under communism, he shouldn't really have had that kind of structure post-movement, post the Bolsheviks. So before he got a chance to institute any of that, he got sick. Trotsky was supposed to take over. Trotsky was murdered by Stalin, who was a dictator. Once Stalin took complete control, there was no communism. They called themselves communism, but read the manifesto, read Marx, read the works, read what communism was supposed to be, and you'll see that it was nothing like that. And then we as Americans just turned around and just used the word because that's what we do. But the world really has never seen true communism. You've seen socialist dictatorships, you've seen socialism, but commune is where all the resources of a government or of the people were supposed to be for the people. If you had a farm, a commune, it was so that people wouldn't starve. People were starving under the USSR. People were starving, dude. Millions of people starved under Mao Zedong. Pol Pot murdered millions of people and drove millions of people to work. So we really truly haven't seen communism. So when people say communism just hit New York, no. If that just says that we've taken that word and we pretty much wiped our ass with it. That's what we've done when it comes to
I think you'd really say the same with socialism too. And we've done the same with socialism.
Socialism is a little bit, because socialism has been turned into an evil word. If you understand what socialism is, you'll look at many of the programs that we exist on right now, and not a lot of people would not be on this earth without, is socialism.
Yeah.
We just don't know because you have propaganda here and you have education here, and somehow in the middle, you people lose the message. But yeah.
Aaron says is Protestant really said it's no, he did. Well, I mean, if we want to go back historically, I mean, the Protestants did step into it when Henry VIII broke off from the Catholic Church, but that's a whole other story. That's a whole other thing. Well, I won't hold that against you, sis.
And she's not his sister. Stop that.
Here's the funny thing too, Aaron and everybody's like, my I have I think I have the perfect like cliff notes for like Henry VIII breaking, splintering off from the Catholic Church is the best. and this is, I mean, there's more to it than this, obviously, but the best cliff notes I think you can get for it is that he wanted a divorce. They wouldn't let him have one. He said, okay, start my own branch, getting a divorce. That's the
All right.
that's the cliff notes of it.
No, that's not communism, Porf. That is not communism. That's not communism. That's dictatorship. That's socialism. Now you have democratic socialism too. You have democratic socialism to where the people vote in the people to do just that. And then you have socialist dictatorship. It's different. It's different, and it's not all the same. There's no there's not a blanket, term, and it becomes.
Well, again, like we were saying a second ago, it's like I think socialism more so than communism. But yeah, we, like you said, we wiped our ass with those terms to the point where they have no, in this country, especially, they have no meaning. It's like you hear that those, especially in like an election year, I mean, those terms, it's like they're ammo. They're ammo for like one political party to like bludgeon another with. It's like, and they don't mean what they actually mean anymore.
Yeah, because we don't educate. And this started back in the 50s. This started with McCarthyism. This started when the Soviets basically perverted the word, and then we just took it from there. Communism and socialism, they do, but that's not correct. That's because we don't look into what we're saying sometimes. We take for granted when we hear somebody say commie or communist, we take for granted that A, that person knew what the fuck they were talking about, and B, that the people that they are talking to are never going to go look up. I wonder what the hell that is. Well, we were taught this in school.
Yeah.
Communist
not
Manifesto.
well, we were taught it.
the Communist Manifesto is something that you can get online. You can get the Amazon, the journal, dropping on your porch. Look up Engels. Look up Karl Marx.
That's true. Yeah, Aaron lives in the region of like damn it, come up. There you go. In the region of the numerous mostly, of course, because Australia is close to Southeast Asia. But yeah.
That would fall under socialism. That's not communism. And that's democratic socialism because he did not dictate. He was elected. Mao Zedong was not elected. Joseph Stalin was not elected. Pol Pot was not elected. Brezhnev was not elected. Khrushchev was not elected. You see what I mean here? So that's why, that's what's happening in New York. If he implements those elements that he is implementing, that would be called democratic socialism. That is still the will of the people, though, because they elected him. So that's not communism. When people say, well, there's a communist running New York, it pains me because it's like when I'm reading your guys' comment and you abbreviate words, like the other night when you used the letter U instead of using the word you. That drives me crazy because text is important. Rhetoric is important. And how we never really dissect the term, and now it's being weaponized against somebody. And I'm like, once again, that communism and the socialist dictators, those are different things than what he's doing, So yeah. What about Anarcho-Capitalist Manifesto? You read that? Not in a long time. That's been like, if we're talking about what I think you're talking about, that's been years. We might not be talking about the same thing.
When we do this watch party, it's probably going to be the most political discussion that we've had on the show. It's kind of hard to avoid with For Vendetta, but it is what it is.
Yeah, and like I said, this is the problem. That's not necessarily political leaning discussion. That's just facts, guys. Things are what they are. We have a history. Communism was dreamt up to be well-intended paradise because the people who drew up those documents were looking around, seeing people starving while rich people were building fences to keep them out and eating, getting all the food. So they didn't see, when you see rulers and Castros and Mao Zedong and Stalin, when you see those guys do what they did with it, that is a betrayal. Not that I'm for one way or another, but that is a betrayal of the manifesto. People starved under Stalin. People were murdered under Stalin. Millions of people starved under Mao Zedong. Millions of people were killed under Pol Pot. Millions of people were starved. That is literally if there's a glossary of what not to do when you read this book, they did it all. So when we really never seen a true system. Now in Europe, you have socialism and places like that, but the only difference between what they have in other places is that they call it socialism because they know the difference between socialist dictatorship and socialism that is for the better good. That's why your healthcare is different, things like that. If there's a lot of things, socialism is generally something that the group puts into, and then it's turned around and rerouted to benefit the group. So insurance, things like that, Medicaid, these are things that are socialist, that have socialist properties about them. We've just allowed the propaganda of what they are to destroy those words, and it's been a century of doing it that way. So
Yeah.
it's and we've never had any reason to think anything else. But when you see somebody and you call them a socialist, understand, if you understand what those words are, you're not necessarily calling them the asshole you think they are. Now, if they're Mao Zedong, if they are Pol Pot, if they are Castro, and they are collectively taking and then not giving back and ruling, and you have to build an iron curtain to keep people there, that's a difference. But you can't apply that to Manzotti in New York, because you can leave New York if you don't like it there.
Yeah.
And they elected him. Huge difference. So it's an interesting topic because people just they don't. We've given people the luxury of not ever having to understand what those words mean.
Well, and so often, I mean,
You know?
and not to get on my own soapbox here, but so often I like the term as pejorative socialist gets thrown around. So this is kind of like a punchline I made of it. The term socialist in this country especially gets thrown around so often by people who are old enough to collect Social Security.
Exactly, which is literally in the name. Well, it's been in the way the Americanized insult has been is you worked hard and now somebody is freeloading off of you. When if you look at how interconnected this dynamic was, going all the way back to the Roosevelt administration, you benefit from it. We all benefit from that. But because we don't understand the dynamics and we don't care to that becomes a problem. William, would the society and Star Trek be considered socialism? Because remember, because they destroyed their world to get to that point, but there is no hunger. There's no class. There's no class of people like that unless you're the Ferengi. They exist to better their society. They collectively exist to better their society. What Gene Roddenberry instituted in Star Trek was the actual definition of what socialism and communism was written up to be. If you read Communist Manifesto, and like I said, I'm not saying that needs to change your idea of communism. If you're a capitalist, be a capitalist. Don't get me wrong. But just because you choose capitalism doesn't mean you need to misunderstand these other terms because they've been weaponized and used differently. That's all. Well, you could say communism and socialism was a fantasy, but it was still the same. The aims in Star Trek are the same aims as that, was for people to not suffer. Star Trek is not libertarian. There's a lot of things I would describe Star Trek. A libertarian ain't one of them. All right. That was interesting. But yeah, guys, the documentation's all out there. Like I said, I studied this in school because I grew up in the Cold War. You got to realize that my point of view is I grew up in the Cold War, and they wanted you to have a decent understanding of what the conflict was about, what the ideology was about, and you didn't want to look and feel and sound like a fucking fool, talking about the Cold War and not understanding the instigations and the inspirations for it.
Which is really weird because now we don't have a problem with that at all, especially on the news.
No, we don't, because we didn't have that type of news during the Cold War. We had news. We didn't have bloggers and people like that. We didn't have a race for the bottom when it came to news. But when you were growing up and you were taught about, okay, what's this? Why are we living under the scourge of being completely wiped out? What is communism? And what is so different about capitalism? You have to learn about capitalism, what capitalism is, the free market system, things like that, the differences between the two. But the problem is the way they, people would focus on when you say communism, you automatically think of Russia, you automatically think of China, you automatically think of Cuba, you automatically think of all those countries. But when the USSR is the Union of Soviet Socialist, I mean, so their design, they corrupted the design. But there are other countries in Europe that did not corrupt the design. There are places all around the world that have implemented socialism in the very fabric of what they do, the United States included. It's just we don't have the understanding of it to know what it is sometimes. It's an interesting topic. It was interesting when I was being taught in school, and then it was, during my junior year is when the Soviet Union collapsed. And then you understood what was really going on. If you want to understand how we have not seen communism, other than just a word we throw around, look at what the Soviet Union was truly going through behind the Iron Curtain that we didn't know about. They were on the brink of a collapse. They couldn't last. The reason why the Soviet Union and that type of communism collapsed because it could not withstand. See, communism and socialist dictatorships are isolationism. And in order to, even if you are not a capitalist country, if you can't do trade with the West, your economy degrades and suffers. So that's what happened eventually to the Soviet Union. But the other European countries that use socialism, they're still up and running and they're doing just fine. So, and they don't have any more or less problems than any other problem. I'm a capitalist. I own a business for profit. But it still pains me to see the terms misused because it's like, damn, it's literally in history books, guys. You got YouTube. There are documentaries to tell you what this shit is. And people still like, commie. I'm like, oh, fuck. Jesus.
Yeah, it was every election.
It's like when I hear the word woke. When I hear the word commie or when I hear the word you use like that, it's like when I hear woke. All I see is a caveman dragging his knuckles. It's just, whatever. Yeah, because it's post World War III. I would say that. And they you know what? The people in Star Trek and the people in the Federation and that world didn't come to that conclusion on their own. They didn't contemplate shit. They blew up their planet and then really said, hey, we got to do something different. All right. Anything else?
Try to think when nothing happens. Yeah.
Yep, that was the agriculture. Yeah, that was the agricultural industry wing of this. That's why when you see Russian jerseys and stuff, you see CCCP because
again, like I said, like China is like it's such a weird. It's the most capitalist communist country in the world. They're
and that's they're not even because they're taking what they make. And the party is benefiting from it, but the people as a whole don't necessarily. So yeah, that's really not that's socialism. But whenever you have socialism, if you have a socialist dictator, which Z is the people didn't put him in power, he was not elected, then there's no accountability. And that's the difference between a democracy and a socialist dictatorship and, not socialist, but socialism and democratic socialism, as opposed to the perverse version of communism and socialist dictator. There's no accountability. If the leader Mao Zedong starved millions of people, there's no accountability to get him out of there. If Ramandani, I keep fucking up his name. I'm sorry, Mayor Binari, but if he fails at his job, he gets voted out. So in a socialist, democratic socialist system like that, which is the most common form that you're going to see, there's accountability. So you're not living under the fist of somebody else. So there's a lot of differences in it, but it's an interesting conversation to have if you're going to have it with people who are willing to appreciate what the terms truly mean. And that's the most important part of it, because in those terms when they're misused, they're very damaging. Not at all. No.
I've seen so many memes about this for like him with like the Mickey Mouse ears on and
yeah. I've heard the term disneyfication, and I'm like, just say you don't want to go see the movie. because there's no disinvocation here.
Like you said,
I don't even know if that's a fucking term. That sounds stupid. If it is a term, and I think whatever it's implying, I think I understand what it's implying. No, because you do not have to worry about that in this movie.
or like you said, this is the kind of thing where they bullshit their way into a PG-13, but by making the blood anything but red.
Questions: are you available to cancel elections in America? Constitutionally, no. There are people who theorize that you could declare a state of emergency, but the Constitution does not allow. The Congress has to be a part of that, and they put that in place because that's what royalty had in England, and parliamentaries and things like that. They didn't have a parliament. There was no way to elect people. Your governors, your people were appointed. And there's no difference in having a king if you have somebody that can just basically try to keep themselves in power. So no, the Constitution does not allow for that to happen. You can delay an election, but you can't, and you can only. There's time limits on how you can do it.
And the closest we've had to anything like that was probably 2000, like that how long that fiasco went on.
Well, that was a disputed election. That's a difference between canceling an election. That was a dispute, but the election happened. It was the results are disputed based on the electoral college, which is something else, another story. Yeah, the Clintons 100%. We had an election during the Civil War, so there we go.
And that was back when it took because we didn't have electricity. We didn't have a grid back then, so you couldn't you'd push the buttons and
you
vote the same way now.
Literally
so
had horses delivering.
I mean, how long would it take to certify an election back then? Probably a couple months.
But they did it. Actually, it only took a few weeks, I think. But they actually did it. And remember, you had the Confederacy had declared themselves that they're in a different country, so they didn't. It was less votes to count because you didn't have to count them.
America has state constitutions and state rights like Australia does.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Elections are run by the states. Elections are not a federal affair. They are for federal office, but each state has its own electrical.
Since we're kind of on this topic, here's some crazy bit of trivia. My nephew just had he was off school yesterday because of the election day. I don't know how widespread this is, because it was election day, so they had no school. And I asked Megan, so he doesn't have school on an election day, and he's too young to vote. So I don't even see the point of that.
Well, the reason is so that the teachers and the families can have one less thing on their schedule to have to deal with, and they can go vote. Because you can take your kids to the voting booth. You can take your kids, but it's done to free up as much time so that you can vote.
We talked about that on that topic comes up every election where we say it's like that voting that election day should be basically a national holiday so that people don't have to carve time out of their schedule to go vote. Because
that would take an act of Congress. That's something that can happen, but that just hasn't happened yet. So states can do it on their own.
I'm just saying, a predator abandons his mission to go back for the. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't think that's going to happen. Okay.
This goes on the vein of me trying to take the show seriously and take your guys' time seriously. If the chat's not going to take it seriously, what am I supposed to do?
Here's another thing too, and because I kind of want to ask that Deck has been described as the quote unquote runt of his tribe, and there's been a couple clips out there, showing him fighting some other predators. So apparently, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but because predators average about 7-8 feet in height, so it sounds like he's by predator standards not as big as most predators are.
Yeah, he's basically not the same build as some of the alphas are.
So he's what, 6'2" or something?
It's hard to say because everything he's up against. I mean, he's considerably bigger than Elle Fanning, who's only 5'5", and the guy who plays him is 6'8". The guy at Comic-Con was about 6'8". So
okay, but again, compared to normal predator standards of height and build.
But remember, there's different versions of them. You saw that in Predators where you had the bigger ones.
You had 10-foot predators.
So, so you really don't. I'll just have to wait for them to build on that lore because I don't know if. Okay, I won't even say this because that's technically a spoiler.
Okay.
I'm not bringing up any more of your comments. It's just being silly. All right. Does anybody have anything else? Right now, this is where I'm turning the show over to you for the last 10 minutes or so. Provided you don't say something silly that I'm just not going to bring up. I've already timed out one person. We don't need to bring that into what it was. But
I know who that. I can see who that individual was who was timed out, who just can't get a life.
We don't need to. I did what I needed to do.
Mm.
All right. The running man better be what?
Better be skibidi. Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
Is that like the new Tra?
Okay, so we're
No
bringing
Tra,
up words better
skibidi.
than non-words.
No, come on. We should be. I'm telling you, it's part of our brand. Like we invent words here.
No.
Nobody
No,
else.
no.
Nobody else is Tra but Sci-Fi Center.
Yeah, because they know how to say words.
Dude, it's
they know how to spell.
that day, I would like be like contact like my stationery company, and it's like whoever's like produces like the Sci-Fi Center shirts or anything. It's like I want a Tra shirt saying Tra, like the Sci-Fi Center is Tra, like the home of Tra.
No,
like I want that patented.
I speak only words. That's how I was taught.
It's a word.
That's what I do. Tra is not a word. It's fourth fucking up the word train. That's not a word.
You can say if you can communicate.
Grammar. Listen, guys. If you haven't learned already, grammar is important to me.
If it's an assembly of letters that you can speak out loud and form telepathic sensations inside of your cerebral cortex, then it's a word.
Not here.
William, the 2009 Star Trek film is always Saldana character buys a Bud Light. What currency is she using? I thought there was no capitalism.
There isn't. There's no money in Star Trek. They probably have credit, but it's not really, it's like when you go to Tim Ford. How many times did you see them buy the alcohol that they got pushed over across town? So, in that word, the money, and that's why when you see the Rights of Acquisition, when you see the Ferengi's first appearance, it is so contrast because they're the only people in the galaxy that use currency. Everybody else in the Federation does not use it. Latinium, they have Latinium, but it's not. It's only used for when they need something from the Ferengi.
Oh, by the way, since we're talking a little bit about watch parties, another one I'm kind of surprised we haven't done a watch party for yet, especially on the stuff. There was Men in Black. Watch party Men in Black.
I'm all right with not doing a watch party.
Why not? Why not?
I saw that movie so many times when it first came out. I wasn't the biggest fan of the sequels in the new one.
Oh, well, I mean, okay. So 2 sucks. 3 is pretty good. 3 is like just about neck and neck with 1 for me. And then 4 was just pretty forgettable. And 4 is interesting because that came out, that had Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson in it. And it came out like 6 weeks after Avengers Endgame, which at the time was the biggest movie ever made. And so that came out and bombed. So I was like, I've got to wonder,
that movie was gonna bomb.
Yeah, well, because it didn't have have J and K in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's once again, and I'm trying to think of that's like making, and this is what I mean when people don't think when they start spending other people's money. That's like saying let's make Bad Boys and not have Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in it, and greenlighting that. How do you keep your job? How do I trust you again with resources? You know what I mean?
Anyway, yeah, Men in Black. That was. I just felt like that's because I had that on a few nights ago, thinking like, well, first of all, because that was Will Smith when he was like really. It was right the year after Independence Day, so it was really when he was breaking out. But who I don't think gets enough credit for that, and is Vincent D'Onofrio as like the bug in the human epidermis.
Well, because he's barely himself for that movie. So
he's hilarious. The bug that just has to contort itself down to fit inside of a human skin.
Yeah, I mean, it was a unique movie. I saw it a bunch of times because every time we would watch movies when we were deployed, somebody would bring that movie up, and I'm like, okay, I'll sit through this. 2 sucked. I thought 2 was terrible. I didn't. Like I said, I didn't think 3 was that. It wasn't like bad, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't something I was like, I want to watch this again.
Oh, Aaron, is this like a diss here? I'm a proud owner of all 3 MIB movies. Is that like a little bit of a dunk on MIB International?
Yeah, like it should have never. Somebody should have said no.
Yeah, but look at it from like Hemsworth and Thompson's perspective. It's like, yeah, that bombs, but they were just in Endgame, so it's like is that even like a wash, or is that more like a okay, whatever?
No, actors don't pay for bombs in movies for the most part. Directors and producers and studios pay for the bombs.
Oh yeah, that was. God, I heard the song.
Yeah, Here Comes the Men in Black. That was a massive hit for him.
Probably 1,000 times before I saw the movie.
Yeah, it was done off the framework. It was sampled from "Send Me Forget Me Nots."
Yeah, and it was the same thing with Wild Wild West 2 years later. He and that again heard that ad nauseum for the movie, and the movie was not good.
Yeah, he used Kumo D's Wild Wild West,
Yeah.
and he reformed it into a song.
And like I didn't hate it. It just was
very.
very.
It was after Men in Black. You know, I mean, like I said, if I don't have anything against the movie. It's just, I've seen it so many times, like the fucking Pug.
Again, like 2 was just a real letdown.
That's why it's so hard to do a good sequel. It's really hard to do a good sequel. I think when people nail the sequels, people don't really appreciate just how hard it is to do. But a lot of sequel was when people greenlight them when they shouldn't.
Well, and I mean the first one, that's another instance where it's like it was most people I'm sure like went into it not realizing it was based on it was a comic book movie. I mean, it wasn't like an extended run kind of thing. And it's actually this publisher called Malibu that got bought up by Marvel.
Yep.
So, but it was only like a 6, 7, 8 issue run, something like that.
Yeah,
it was a little bit like Time Cop, where it's like it's like a short-lived comic title, but it got you plug the right star into it, and you turn into a blockbuster.
I will never do anything called Big Willie Weekend under no fucking circumstances ever. So that's dead right there. When Will Smith released him, no.
Big Willie.
Yeah, and if someone were to call me Willie, I'm probably going to by instinct throw something at them. No, I'm not. I'm a big fan of him, but like I said, that movie is it's like Back to the Future with me. I enjoyed the fuck out of that movie when it came out, and I grew up with that movie. But it's like I'm not gonna go watch that in the movie theater again. I might not watch that on the small screen again. I saw it 1,000 times as a child. I'll go get that damn DeLorean popcorn bucket though.
Well, but again, this is why like International didn't work though, because I mean it is so much of like what made the first Men in Black work. So it's the chemistry of Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith.
It's the Furiosa situation all over again.
Well, but now it's not fully that, because I mean, like I said, you brought them back for 2, and 2 was bad, and then you brought them both back for 3, but then because it was a time travel movie, then it's like it's mostly Josh Brolin as K in that one. I was really impressed like how good of like a Tommy Lee Jones he did.
Joe Average doesn't. That's not what Joe Average is going to pay for see.
Well, 3 was a success. 3 is a success.
But I'm talking about
big success.
Yeah, because they were still in the movie, even though Brolin was in the movie. You still the brand of them. But once you went away from that brand completely, I don't know why International was made.
Well, I mean, do you think it was like a case of like they tried to get Will Smith and Tommy Lee back, and they declined, and they said, well, we still want to do this, so it's like, okay, we'll just like focus on other agents.
The conversation stops.
Well, I mean, it clearly didn't in that instance.
Well, once again, people not doing their jobs. That's why sometimes it's okay to fire people. Not everybody needs to keep their job. Sometimes it's okay to be like, okay, you're not doing what I need you to do. Sometimes
it was F. Gary Gray who did that one. See, I think part of also why that moved ahead, because he was like just coming off of Straight Outta Compton and Fate of the Furious, which between them did like 1.4 million, something like that. So he probably, I would imagine, like probably a lot of that was just like him.
None of that should have factored into
for that.
None of that should have factored into shit. And whoever said yes to that fucked up, because those movies that doesn't make up for the fact that you don't have your brand players for this brand that you're about to do a brand movie about. I don't care if you made $1 billion in your last 2 movies. If you're now taking on something and you're not taking the recognizable brand with you, what did you think was going to happen?
Yeah, like three. Because I'm looking at all 3 of them right now. 3 was the biggest of the series. 3 did That was also the biggest budget of the series. But
Who's in 3? Read the actors.
it was Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones, Josh
They're good.
Brolin.
Stop. Time out. So we're not talking about 3. I'm talking about moving on beyond those 2 gentlemen and doing a movie, because who's in international?
It was Hemsworth and Tess Thompson, and well, they got a little bit of connection. They have Emma Thompson from 3.
Okay.
She's in 3.
I'm waiting for Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones. No. You don't make that movie. You know, I mean, I don't think that's not even hard to come up. That's not even a hard decision. And I'm not, I mean, once they say, just like Independence Day Resurgence, I'm sorry. Will Smith says no.
Well, that wasn't like completely bereft of the original cast. That had Jeff Goldblum. That had that brought back Bill Pullman.
Everybody but the most important character in the fucking franchise.
Well, they could have even like given themselves an out. They didn't like. Well, now you said that you think they should just like retcon that away and make like a here's the do-over Independence Day 2.
Resurgence when you make the next
but they could have given themselves an out by saying, like, you know, now I don't know where he would be if they said he's alive, he's not in the movie. They could have given themselves an out where they said that was so ridiculous for because we didn't get Will Smith back. We'll just kill him off screen.
Here's a conversation when you walk into my office and you say, "Hey, we're gonna do Independence Day. We're gonna do another Independence Day." And I'm like, okay, I'm okay. All right. So we got Judd Hirsch, we got Jeff Goldblum, we got everything. And then I ask you if we have Will Smith, and you say no. We're done. We're done. We're done. If you come in and you say, hey, I want to make a Men in Black movie without the Men in Black. Nope. No, it's a 2-letter word. It's really easy to say, and I'm pretty sure in any language, any culture, no means no. It's like the red. It's like, it's universal. So, yeah, we're not making that movie. To me, that makes not as much sense as Bad Boys without Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. I want to see that. Let's make a whole new movie, man. Oh my God.
Yeah.
See, the thing about 21 Jump Street, it wasn't tied to the show with Johnny Depp in it. Most of the people who saw 21 Jump Street were just seeing it for that movie. Because if you watch that show, I mean, come on.
Well, it's it's totally the opposite of the show. I mean, the show is not a comedy. But there's one line in it that, God, I love this line. Just in the trailer, when they're in the police chief's office, and that's after like they've had like a big screw up. And he says, "Do you guys even know like how to read Miranda rights?" It's like, yeah, it's like it's how you read. You have the right to read an attorney. And he goes, "Did you say you have the right to be an attorney?" And Jonah Hill, and he does. I mean, this is like the kind of thing I would have done like in high school, like bullshit my way out. Something. He goes, "You do have the right to be an attorney if you want to." You know.
We did that movie. We promoted that movie on the night we promoted another movie, but I had to stand in there for a while. Because they were having problems with the movie and we didn't know if we were going to get through the movie. So I was there for 41 minutes of that movie. I didn't laugh once. And I was so happy that I wasn't obligated to finish that movie because we had another movie that was starting later. And I just needed to make sure that our people, if they were going to cancel the movie, because if it wasn't, they were having technical difficulties. And to me, the technical difficulty was the movie because it was fucking dumb. But I just had to stay there long enough to reroute people to a different day. And I'm standing in the hallway looking at this movie, and I'm like, free was the right price. And I'm like, this is stupid. But you know what? Theater had people that enjoyed it. I had people coming up to me. We had little posters for them. Hey, what are we going to do? Yeah, sure. You want to go? Here you go. And I had no plans on seeing the 41 minutes of that movie that I saw, but I was there because I had to be. And but yeah, you sat through that whole movie.
Yeah.
This is starting to explain what happens to you, why your mind is where it is now.
Well, you sat there Howard the Duck when you were a kid. You went to that with great
I was
excitement.
misled. To
I said
Howard the Duck.
I didn't think it's like a masterpiece. I saw it. You know?
It's not even a piece. Oh, it's a piece, right? It's a piece, but yeah, piece. You know what? But yeah, that would have been a disaster. That would have been that would have been like a fireable offense right there.
Well, we also got like there's. I don't know if there's like actual like studio consideration in this, but I'm sure you've seen like the whole thing float around. Like, Fast and Furious should do a crossover with Jurassic Park.
I know this, and I weep for this. I mourn this.
Oh yeah. I remember seeing the Johnny Depp camp.
Yeah, because Grieco, he had a show after that lasted a couple of seasons. Because Richard Grieco came on, he was a hit guy. Everybody's like, oh, we need to. And when 21 Jump Street went off the air, because those people wanted way more money than they were going to get paid after that fourth season, and the newest guy on there, they just did a show about him, and actually pretty decent for a couple of said, but yeah, that's feel the same way about Halloween and Freddy Krueger. If you bring those horror icons back, don't use Laurie Strode, don't use Nancy. I say don't at all. I'm going to stop you even further than that. I really think for the good of those franchises, they need to go away for an extended amount of time. They need to go away and brought back when it's special for them to be there. And when you can find the right people, but because like I said, you left out somebody that I think that was more important than any of those people in those characters, and Dr. Sam Loomis. You ain't getting another Donald Pleasant, so let's go ahead and shelve that. And his soul drives that movie. None of those people are as important to that movie. That includes Michael Myers, is Sam Loomis and Donald Pleasant's portrayal of him. So yeah, let's go ahead and put it in the time capsule. Let's bury Freddy, let's bury Jason, let's bury Michael, and in 15, 20 years, we can dig it up and hopefully we're in a better place where we can actually do these movies, because man, we're not there right now. Yep, and that's from Billy Idol, man. Billy Idol is at the top of his game, and that's yeah. I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for taking the character. I just, like I said, right now, it's just the bad movies that have come recently are still fixated in my mind. So yeah, let's wait a little bit on that. All right, guys, that's where I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. Thank you for adding things to what could be a very complex conversation if you don't have it the right way. But I am willing to have that type of conversation because I think it's important. I think a lot of our fiction and science fiction and a lot of the pop culture that we talk about is based on the dystopia that comes from the misuse of certain terms and terminology. So I think it's important to appreciate these things if we understand what is what going into them. So, all right. Tomorrow is Thursday. I don't know if I'm going to be on the air Thursday because I got some scheduling stuff that I got to get done Thursday and Friday. But Saturday, if Clint is up for it, we're going to do Spinal Tap 2 as our watch party on Saturday, and then we have some other stuff that we're in. When we reach the Saturday show, we're going to go into spoiler when it comes to Predator, because by that time, I hope most of you who are watching our show will have seen it. We'll talk about Predator in general. We're actually going to talk about the franchise in general leading up to this movie, where we're at. We're not talking AVP, so don't leave those questions alone. We're not talking Rucker Ribbon. We're not talking about Predator. We're talking about the good movies. We're talking about the recent stuff. We're talking about Predator 87. We're talking about Predator 290. We're talking about Predators. We're talking about Killers. We're talking about Prey, and we're talking ultimately about Badlands. Anything else? I'm pretty sure someone else will stream and talk about. If you want to do a show about the Predator, I feel for you and where you're at now. So we're doing that. And we got some comic book stuff that we're gonna talk up, and that's about it. So I will see you guys. There's a bot in chat. I will see you guys when I next see you, whenever the hell that is. Like, subscribe, share. If you're watching on Twitter right now, right below our big heads is where you need to be. See you this weekend.
See you guys.